Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so wonderful to be together. I hope everybody picked up a prayer card on the way in, either in the salmon, if you like Hebrew lettering, or in the, what do we call it, buff, if you prefer the transliteration. Both are fine, and we will begin our Shabbat service singing together.
And I hope you also picked up a lovely song booklet as well. And we'll begin singing together with the words of Hine Ma Tov, which is number 5, yes, in your song booklet, because how wonderful it is for us to be together.
Hine Ma Tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
We'll continue singing together with the words of Vishamru, which is number 19 in your song booklet.
V'shamaru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. V'shamaru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam. V'shamaru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. V'shamaru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamaru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam.
We continue with the words of Lecha Dodi, which you can find is number 1 in your Zimirot. And we will sing, as you see on the page, it's essentially the equivalent of verses 1 and 9.
Lecha Dodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamu v'zachu b'dibur echad, yishmi'anu el ha'miyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'li tehila. Lecha Dodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha ובצהולה תוך אמוני המסגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לי כתקלה יללי 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 פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לי כתקלה יללי 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 פני שבת
We continue together with the words of Shalom Alechem, which can be found as number 4 in your songbook.
Shalom Alechem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nil Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
As we welcome in Shabbat, it is my pleasure to invite Catherine forward to light candles for us this evening.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotah, v'tzivanu b'ha'adli ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You're welcome. We pray together on the top of our prayer cards. We live in a very busy world, but we put aside one day every week for rest. That day is Shabbat. Shabbat is the time that we come together to be with ourselves, our families, our friends, and with God. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. God, we thank you for our special holy day. We thank you for helping us make our lives holy through this celebration of Shabbat. We rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu adavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'ribarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lektecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtabtam al mizuzot beitecha uv'isharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We continue singing our songs of redemption with Miriam's song.
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, noratehi loto sefele, noratehi loto sefele. בוקע לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאי לי 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 לי
We rise physically or spiritually for the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chazei Avot V'Imot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'Neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Hoseh U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah.
God, each of us hears you differently, yet you are the one God for us all. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob each heard you in a different way. To Abraham you gave courage. To Isaac you brought comfort. Jacob learned that you are everywhere, even in places he didn't expect to find you. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah each heard you in a different way. To Sarah you brought laughter. To Rebecca you gave strength. To Rachel you taught kindness. And to Leah you brought love. May each of us hear you in our own special way, and may we always feel your protection. We praise you, eternal God. You are the shield of Abraham, the help of Sarah, the one God of all Jews and all the world. You may be seated as we continue with a moment for private prayer and reflection.
Say shalom bimromav, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
We rise as we turn over our prayer cards for our Torah service.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור אדוני מלך אדוני מלך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד אחד אלוהינו גדול אדוננו קדוש שמו גדול אדוני איתי ונעמה שמו יחדיו לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד כי כל בשמיים ובארץ כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש.
You may be seated. Our Torah portion this evening comes from Parshat Bamidbar as we begin the book of Numbers. It begins with a census, which is very important to know who we are traveling with in the wilderness, but not the most exciting to hear read. So I will be reading from the beginning of Numbers chapter 3, which if you have a Torah commentary can be found on page 905. It's our custom to join in the blessings together over the Torah reading, which are on your prayer card. Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam vaed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Ve'ele toledot Aharon u'Moshe, and these are the generations of Aaron and Moses. B'yom diber Adonai et Moshe, on the day that Adonai spoke with Moses, Bahar Sinai, on the mountain of Sinai. Ve'ele shemot b'nei Aharon, and these are the names of the children of Aaron. Habechor Nadav, the firstborn Nadav, Ve'avihu and Avihu, Eleazar ve'Itamar, Eleazar and Itamar. Ele shemot b'nei Aharon, these are still the names of the children of Aaron. HaKohanim, of Aaron the priest. Mishachim, who was anointed. Asher melo yadam lechahen, upon whose hand they were like filled with their hands to be a priest, or in other words, they were ordained. And it's notable that they were ordained because all the rest of the Levites are priests by the sake of heredity. Vayamot Nadav ve'Avihu, but Nadav and Avihu died lifnei Adonai, before Adonai, Hakrivim esh zara, because they sacrificed or they brought near a foreign fire, lifnei Adonai, before Adonai, b'midbar Sinai, in the wilderness of Sinai. Uvanim lo hayu, and they did not have any, hayu lahem, and they did not have any sons. V'yichahen Elazar ve'itamar, and so Eleazar and Itamar served as priests, al pnei Aharon avihem, before Aaron their father. V'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and Adonai spoke to Moses and said, Hakrev et mata Levi, you should bring near the tribe of Levi, V'ha'amadta otam lifnei Aharon, and you're going to, if I'm translating literally, you're going to cause them to stand up right before Aaron. Though more colloquially, that you're going to sort of arrange them or set them before Aaron HaKohen, before Aaron the priest. V'sartu oto, v'shamru et mishmerato, v'et mishmeret kol ha'edah, lifnei ohel moed, and they are going to serve before, or minister before Aaron and before the whole congregation in front of the tent of meeting, la'avod et avodat hamishkan, to do the work or the service of the tabernacle. Vishamru et kol kalei ohel moed, and they will guard, or they will serve over, all of the vessels of the tent of meeting, of the tabernacle, ve'et mishmeret b'nei Yisrael, and over the children of Israel, la'avod et avodat hamishkan, to serve the service of the mishkan, v'natata et halevi'im le'aharon, and you will give the Levi'im, the Levites, before Aaron, ulevanav, and his sons, nitunam nitonam, that they will surely be given. Hema. One moment. Hema lo me'et b'nei Yisrael. These will be given wholly before him, before the children of Israel. Ve'et Aharon ve'et vanav tifkod v'shamru et kohantam v'hazer hekrev yumant. And they will appoint Aaron and his sons that they will keep the priesthood, and all the Israelites that draw near shall be put to death. So in this holy service, we need kodesh, we need separation, but we don't like to end on death. V'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor, Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Ve'ani hine lachachti et halevi'im mitoch b'nei Yisrael, I am giving you the children of Israel, tachat kol bechor, in place of the firstborn, patot rechem, the firstborn of a womb, mibnei Yisrael, from the children of Israel. V'hayu li halevi'im ki li kol bechor bayom hakiti kol bechor be'eretz Mitzrayim, because I'm getting all the firstborns of the womb, because the firstborns are mine, because on the day that I smote all the firstborns in the land of Egypt, I sanctified unto me all the firstborns of Israel, both of man and of beast. V'hikdashti li kol bechor b'Yisrael me'adam ad behema. Li yiyu ani Adonai, they should be to me, because I am Adonai. And we'll join in the blessing after the Torah reading. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Or are we lifting the Torah first?
interesting that I didn't pay that close of attention when I was looking at the Torah portion this week because I wasn't reading it. And I forgot that it did talk about ordination because that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. Right, you chose that section. Today marks a very special day. One of those reasons is because it's Shabbat, right? It's also pretty exciting because we are almost at the very end of the Omer counting. But it's also historically a really significant day. And I often, on Share Shabbat, will give you a story about perhaps something that is more fiction. But I wanted to share with you a story that is more nonfiction. Let's just call it historical. Because on this day, 50 years ago, does anyone know what happened? That's right, the first female rabbi was ordained, the first female rabbi in North America, I'll make sure just to say. And I know that Catherine knows who that is because she sat next to her at one of our biennials and was very excited. What is her name? Sally Prezan, that's right. My children did not know Sally's name, and I realized that I felt it was important that I share that name out loud because without Sally, you wouldn't have myself or Rabbi Sobo here with you. When I was looking into becoming a rabbi, I'd thought about it for a while, but I ended up going to rabbinic school starting in 1997. And there was a book that was published in 1996, and it was labeled Women Rabbis, Exploration and Celebration, honoring 20 years of women in the rabbinate. That was 30 years ago. It's kind of hard for me to imagine how things have changed, especially looking at some of the numbers when I first was going in there. Because it says here, this is 4 years before I actually applied. This is when I was a senior in high school, still considering it. As of January 31st, 1993, the College Institute had ordained 187 Reform women rabbis, and women currently make up 47% of the students in the rabbinic program. So at this point, there were only 187 women rabbis. There are a whole lot more of us now. And the newest number that I found, in case you were curious, I'll look up before the end. I won't look that up for you now. So Sally began her journey as a woman from Ohio. We like Ohio stories. And she started to imagine her life as a rabbi when she was 16 years old. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Hebrew Union College and the American Jewish Archives, and I saw Rabbi Prezan, who was there. She was going to be speaking for the ordination ceremony, but it was also the opening of a wonderful program at both locations, one which is 50 Years of Women in the Rabbinate, a celebration through art, and there will be an opportunity for us in the summer to be going down to HUC together to go and look at that. But there was also another exhibit that opened in the American Jewish Archives that will be there for a year, and that included a whole slew of parts of the journey that Sally Prezan began on. She gave her archives over when she retired and put it into the American Jewish Archives, and she saw for the very first time the letter that she had written when she was first contemplating becoming a rabbi to Hebrew Union College. She couldn't remember it because she had sent it. She was like 16 years old. And of course, the response that she got back was also there, talking about the fact that there's one little small thing. She would be welcome to come and study at Hebrew Union College. But ordination, that's another issue. That's reserved for men. And there was some more communication, as you can imagine, and once she was admitted into HUC, she said, and you can see this in her letter that she received from them, that she's been admitted as a special student, essentially. The word special was in there. I don't remember if it was with special circumstances or as a special student. As you can imagine, being the first woman rabbi or first woman to begin this program, she thought, what do you mean special? What am I going to be doing that's different? I want to be a part of this community. I want to learn together with all of my male counterparts. And they said, the only reason that we put that in there is because you have a special exemption. Can anyone guess what that exemption was? No. It's more practical than it is religious. She didn't have to live in the men's dormitory. She got an exception that she could live off campus, which at that point was also a very big deal. If you can imagine how far we've come in 50 years, it is truly, truly remarkable. And I was excited because I know last night the Women of Reform, or the Women's Rabbinic Network, ended up having a celebration for Rabbi Sally, and we got to hear from different women who are now rabbis who talked about how she opened doors for them. One of the things that Sally is known for is not just opening that door, but she's known for holding that door open and bringing people along with her. And that, to me, is a wonderful trailblazer, not just one who moves forward herself, but one who brings along people with her. But there's a new book that's being published called Sally Opened Doors. It's a wonderful book for young children. And if you have a young child in your life that you'd like to give them something to think about, that's a wonderful opportunity. And now I'd like to share one small thing. So how many of you have heard of Merle Feld? Merle Feld. She's a poet. She was known for a piece of liturgy that we used to use all the time, I want to say in the 80s and 90s. Anyway, she's a Jewish liturgist, if you will, who was commissioned to write something in honor of Sally's 50th anniversary. And so I thought that I would share those with you. This is in honor of her. She writes, "Let my people go that we may serve you. Remember girdles. Remember the anger we weren't supposed to show or even feel. Remember sitting and waiting to say Baruch Hu as someone counted. Not one, not two. The being invisible, the tears blinked back fiercely. Remember the love the innocence assaulted, hearing for the first time those words. And those words, and those such words in a holy book, demeaning me, you, us. All these years later, I feel the pain, rising, constricting, afflicting. Remembering, searching for a reason to stay. Love is stronger than death. Tears become anger. That word, the ultimate weapon. She's an angry woman, so we can ignore her, put her down, close our ears and hearts. Blessed be the allies, calling for the first time from the bima, ta'amod. The ones who broke through the tight circles on Simchat Torah and passed us a scroll to hold, to dance with. The ones who said yes, 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 and yes. And we, the wrestlers, I won't let you go till you bless me. The lust, the longing, to learn, to lane, to lead, to bench, to be counted, to be called, to locate our wisdom, to inhabit our power, and our tenderness, to build holy communities, fully and richly as ourselves, as Jewish women, as rabbis. I won't let you go till you bless me. Now and going forward, now and for tomorrow, my heart soars. It flies, it bursts. From Sally to Sandy to Sarah, from Amy and Amy to Annie to Ariel. Deborah, Devorah, wave after wave after wave, I see joyous throngs. There's Rachel and Hera, Jen, Jamie, Jessica, Jan, and Kara. There's Sharon and Sharon and Sharon. Too many to name. We're just getting started. For so long, the world was unimaginable with you in it. Now we cannot imagine a world without you. We bless the work of your hands. We bless the work of your hearts. We are blessed to be here, still, just at the beginning. Something for us to think about tonight. I felt like it was the right time to pay some homage to Rabbi Prezand. I know that it's easy in our community, at least, not to, it's hard for us to imagine that women can't be rabbis in our community. Is that a fair way to put it? But there are still many in which it isn't something that they take for granted. And in honor of those who didn't realize there was a time when women couldn't be rabbis, I'm thrilled that that's the case, but it's important for us to recognize the importance of going after things that we love, of opening doors, and of bringing people along with us when we do make those changes in the world. While the Torah is in our midst, I want to take a moment
to call to mind those in our community who are in need of healing. We think especially of Sid Gross, Sharon Hatcher, Ken Andrews, Megan Turner, Penelope June Moyer, Julie Bainbridge, Ruth Hirsch, Maxine Rubin, Nissim Ben Rachel, Christina Lobertini Burks, Dave Cox, Jim Levinson, Larry Weinberger, Jody Weinberger, Jim Locke, Mitchell Quinn, Gary Pacernick, Cicely Nathan, Linda Dean Harris, Marty Sacker, and Bob Kahn. We also name, of course, those in our hearts, but if there are other names that you're thinking of at this time, please call them forward. Mishaberach Avotenu v'imotenu, Mishaberach v'yirapeh tacholim. May the one who has blessed and kept our ancestors in every generation continue to bring strength, to bring blessing to those among us who are in need of God's blessing at this time. Amen.
Mishaberach avotenu mekol habracha l'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So, as I mentioned, as far as exciting and wonderful times, we are also finishing up our Omer, which means that we have Shavuot and confirmation around the corner. Sunday morning, I invite anyone to be able to join us, if you're able to celebrate not only our festival holiday, but also the wonderful opportunity to give congratulations to our youth who are going to be graduating from their time here in religious school. So tonight we will mark the counting of the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat ha'omer, hayom tisha v'arba'im yom, shehem shiv'ah shivuot la'omer. We are almost there. At this time, please rise as we lift and dress our Torah and then return it to the ark.
V'zot ha'Torah she'sa Moshe livnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. We return our scroll to the ark, and the words of Eitz Chaim can be found about 2/3 down your page. Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba ונתיבותיה שלום, השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדיש ימינו כקדם, חדיש ימינו כקדם. עלינו לשבח אדון הכל, לתת ולארצי בראשית, שלא עשינו פגעי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, ואור עלינו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
At this time, we call to mind those in our community who are no longer with us, those who have died most recently. We are in a period of Shiva for Richard Levinson, a period of Shloshim for William Rossi, Deborah Seidel, Rosalind Moss, Shirley Gilbert, and Fred Weber. We're also observing the yahrzeits for Joseph H. Bader, Leo Boyd, Fanny Bramson, Lou Cooper, Sidney Copeland, Elaine Donenfeld, Rosella G. Epstein, William L. Fleece, Kitty Friedman, Fan B. Gershow, Stuart Gitman, Bertha Levin Goldberg, Harold Goldberg, Harry Goldberger, Grace Goldberger, Robert Gorton, Sarah Gralnick, Nettie Ingberg, Ben Kaufman, Edward Klaben, Evelyn Leibovich, Marguerite L. Margolis, Sylvia Margolis, Alan Pinsker, Gabriel Pollock, Mark Romanowski, Gussie Rothenberg, Lucille Rubin, Thomas Rutman, Isidore Sajevitz, Howard Sokolsky, Emma B. Schwab, Jerome Schwartz, Albert Schwenk, Louis Supri, Herman Wasserman, Thomas Weprin, Joseph A. Zisson. If there are other names to be remembered or perhaps pronounced differently, I invite you to call those forward at this time. I invite all who are remembering or in mourning to please rise first if you are able. And then we as a congregation rise with you for the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found at the bottom of your prayer card. It gadal v'yit kadash shemei Rabba, ba'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chaye chon v'yomei uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha barichu, le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'imru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, huya asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who grieve, as we say, amen. And we continue at the bottom of the page where it says closing prayer. Please join with me. We thank you, O God, for our family and for what we mean and bring to one another. We are grateful for the bonds of loyalty and affection which sustain us and for the capacity to love and to care. Bless our family, our congregation, and our people with health, happiness, and contentment. Above all, grant us the wisdom to bring a joyous and peaceful home in which your Spirit will always abide. Amen. And I believe we will continue in the hall for Kiddush and Motzi. Shabbat Shalom, Zahayom Asa Adonai, Nagilah v'nismach avo. This is the day that God has created for us in order that we should be glad and rejoice in it. Thank you for being together as we celebrate and bring Shabbat in together.